So thank you all so much again for coming. This is a super exciting collaboration event between Girls Who Code and Red Hat. If you're a student or a recent grad or looking to get into the tech industry, this is an amazing opportunity to meet some people in the industry, ask any questions that you may have, or get some career advice from very, very experienced and smart developers in the field. So please do use the next hour or as long as this event will last to your full advantage. I just want to mention that we're extremely lucky to have a panel of 7 brilliant Red Hatters in all different roles and fields and at varying levels of experience as well. They're all here to answer any questions you may have and to share their experience both in tech and at Red Hat specifically. So before we meet our panel, I want to talk a little more about what Red Hat actually is and what they do as a company. So Red Hat is an American software company that provides open source software products to enterprises. Founded in 1993 and then acquired by IBM in 2018, which is currently their parent company. Red Hat is actually the largest open source company in the world to date, which is incredible. And you may have heard about some of their products like Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system, then the Red Hat OpenShift container platform, and the Ansible automation platform as well. And just in case any of you aren't convinced that Red Hat is absolutely killing the game, over 90% of Fortune 500 companies rely on Red Hat services for their success, which is a absolutely crazy statistic, but that's what they do best. So I mentioned the words open source a few times in the previous slide, and I just want to give a little more context about what that entails and why Red Hat chose open source as kind of their style or way of the company. Open source software is basically any software that has the code that can be publicly available and collaborated on by people in just anywhere around the world. So anyone can inspect, modify, contribute to the code, and enhance it. There are many benefits that come from a company or a piece of software being open source. These things can include the diverse communities that can contribute to the code, flexibility and more agile style of development. Oftentimes the development speed can be a lot faster when you're working as an open source project, as well as cost effectiveness and just so many more advantages. Some may argue that there's downsides too, but we will not be focusing on that today. And I pulled a quick little quote from the Red Hat website that says open source is what powers innovation, past, present, and future. And I really love that Red Hat is committed to the way of open source, and clearly it's worked amazingly for them. So that is awesome. All right, I know everyone is waiting until we get to the panel, but one last thing before we get there to the most exciting part of the night, I want to introduce the Collaboratory Program, which is a partnership between Red Hat and Boston University that aims to advance research and learning in emerging technologies. Through this program, BU students can work with Red Hat developers on different projects in many different fields, and they actually get to receive funding along the way, which is great if you're looking for a part-time job or just a job that doesn't require you to go off campus. I know for a lot of international students that can be a struggle, myself included. So the Collaboratory Program was actually the way that I was first introduced to Red Hat, and I could not recommend it more. I personally started last year, my fall semester, and I'm still working with the Collaboratory just on a different project. There's many ways you could get involved. The first, and I think most common, being joining an existing project. So there's a list on the Collaboratory website that you can scan the QR code to get to, with a bunch of projects and their repositories and kind of a quick summary for each. They're all super exciting, and they usually have a contact for you to reach out to if you're interested in joining. So definitely check that out. You could also propose your own research project, which is what I did this semester. So quite literally pick any field you're interested in, any topic, anything you want to do research on that could benefit Red Hat as a company, as well as your personal interests and education. It would benefit you to reach out to either a BU professor or a part-time lecturer or a Red Hat developer. So this is, again, your chance to meet some of them who could potentially be your mentor for the project. So use this to your advantage as well. You can also contribute to code repositories. These are oftentimes on GitHub. This, I would say, is a more kind of independent way to get involved, but it's, again, a foolproof way. You can do your own research, find the projects that you're interested on, and submit some pull requests, get some information about what each project is working on. And the research areas, again, there's some listed here, but the options are limitless, especially if you're deciding to propose your own research project. All right. The part that everyone's been waiting for, the most exciting part, let's meet our Red Hatters. I just want to briefly add that these are all people that I personally had the honor of working with. They're all brilliant and have so much wisdom to share. And I don't want to take up any more of your guys' time. So let's start with Heidi.
Hi, my name is Heidi Dempsey. I originally went to school at MIT. I've worked at a bunch of different internet places as a software vendor, services vendor, and most recently at Red Hat. I'm a big believer in open source too, and thanks, Maria, for that great summary. And looking forward to talking to you all more about opportunities with Red Hat and BU.
Hey everybody, my name is Audrey Resnick. I'm a senior principal software engineer. I joined Red Hat 2 years ago. I've been in the software industry, this is scary to say, for over 20 years. So I was there in the 90s, probably before a lot of you were born, dealing with the .com craze. And I pretty much work as a full stack developer. I love being technical. So I look at all ends or the spectrum of working on an intelligent application. That's from data gathering, creating models, and then working with ML ops folks or infrastructure folks to deliver something successfully into production. And because I kind of got sidelined a little bit, I also ended up with a degree in geology as well. So I worked in the oil industry for a number of years. And then because a number of women asked me last year to see if there was a data science women's network in Red Hat, and there wasn't one, I just went ahead and started one so that everybody could have an opportunity to collaborate in kind of a safe and fun environment. So, and thank you, Maria, for putting this all together. This is awesome.
I guess it's my turn. Hey folks, I'm Lance. So I guess originally I'm from Paris, France, and I came to the States to go to BU. I did my bachelor's and master's there. And then, yeah, since then I've been working at Red Hat. So for the past 4 years, been working at Red Hat, started as an intern. Now I'm a senior software engineer. At the same time, I've been teaching at BU part-time. So I teach a data science course at BU, same course I've been teaching for the past 4 years. I don't do data science at Red Hat. I do, I guess it's called Kubernetes, or I develop in Golang. I work on OpenShift and Kubernetes. I don't know if you've heard of those. So those are kind of separate worlds for me. Yeah, that's about it.
Hey everybody, I'm Holly. I'm a professional development manager at Red Hat in our consulting launch program. So I am not on the software engineering, like product development side of the house. I'm actually on the side of the house that takes our products and then goes to clients and delivers them. So I manage the associates that we hire in our early career program. I've been at Red Hat since March of 2020, so about 3.5 years. And prior to getting into being a professional development manager, I worked primarily in coding boot camps. I ran the career placement program at a large boot camp in Chicago. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Everyone uses my LinkedIn picture, which is
I had
awesome.
to, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I do that one to myself. Hey everybody, thank you so much for having me. As my 3 bulleted things say, I'm a software engineer at Red Hat in the open source program office. We work on maintaining and stewarding open source communities that Red Hat has strategic investments in. I'm also a BU graduate, just graduated with my master's at the end of the last spring semester. So I'm a baby developer. I'm working in the community insights team right now. So my role as a software engineer kind of is half and half on software engineering and data science. And most importantly, I did 2 stints with the Collaboratory, and that was a phenomenal opportunity, mentored by Lance and working alongside Maria. And then once I graduated and got my role here, continued to work with the Collaboratory, and now Maria's on my team. So once again, thank you so much for allowing me the privilege of chatting with you tonight.
Hi I'm Mary Carocha. I'm actually no longer with Red Hat, but I clearly had a positive experience because I'm still here to chat about it. I'm currently a software engineer at a startup called D2IQ. And like Lance, I'm also working with Kubernetes and Golang. But I had a great experience at Red Hat. I was in consulting and Holly was actually my manager. Shout out to Holly. Oh my God. I disappeared. And yeah, so I'm happy to chat about my experience in consulting. You tend to dabble in a lot of different things, and I gained exposure to like a few different Red Hat technologies and different client cultures and things like that. Also happy to chat about the pivot into software engineering and like the job search, how it changed from when I was looking for internships in college, when I was applying to full-time jobs in college, and then applying to full-time job in the early career stage, I guess. And I've also been very involved with Girls Who Code. It's the reason I'm in tech at all. So happy to come full circle and support that community more.
Hi everyone, my name's Christina. I'm currently a senior at BU studying statistics and CS. Like Maria and James, I joined Red Hat as part of the BU Collaboratory, and really got to learn how open source provides privacy for a lot of users. And now I'm currently working as a software engineering intern on Audrey's team.
All right, thank you all so much. So now that we've gotten to meet our amazing Red Hatters, we also have Jen Stacy on the call. Jen, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. How are you? I am Jen. Oh, there we go. Getting video on here. I'm Jen Stacy, and I have actually been working with Red Hat through the Boston University side of the partnership back way before. I was actually originally hired to work in MOC, and my first month in the job, we were talking about this partnership with Red Hat, and it was the beginning conversations of what became the Collaboratory. So it's really, really cool hearing all this excitement around it and seeing where it is over 5 years later and what we've done, and how this program continues to grow and support awesome things. I am a senior project manager with the Red Hat research team. So I work closely with Heidi, Sarah. I've worked with many of the folks who are on this panel in various capacities. So excited to be here. Thank you.
We'll make sure to add your phone, your face to the slides in post-production. Absolutely. And moving on to some of the questions. So a lot of our attendees have pre-submitted some of the questions, but if anyone has more now, please leave them in the chat or unmute yourself when we get done with the ones that were pre-submitted. So I tried to group them together by kind of topics. So these are mostly Red Hat specific. Feel free to answer any of the questions on this slide right now, but just to give an overview, there's questions about the work-life balance at Red Hat, favorite parts of the experience at Red Hat and the company as a whole, why you chose Red Hat and why you love Red Hat, and what a day in a life would typically look like for you as a Red Hat developer or consultant or product manager.
I might jump into this right away if this is okay. I don't want to say that I have the most total unique perspective, but I've worked for over 20 companies in my career. So I've kind of seen kind of the best work-life balance, which happens to be Red Hat, and then some of the worst work-life balance, which I won't mention the company's name that's still in existence. The work-life balance is really important to me. It's a reason that I quit my previous job so that I could spend more time at home and not on the highway. And the other part that kind of ties into that is the ability for Red Hat to allow me to work remote. So I don't have to come into an office every day. I'm trusted to do my work. So that's actually kind of one of my favorite parts about Red Hat. Now, don't think that just because I work at home that I don't interact with people. I interact with a lot of people. I say that, gosh, a good 50% of my day is jumping in and out of meetings and talking to various folks and really expanding my network. I am not an extrovert at heart, but it's really easy to jump on various discussion groups, create networks, join networks, and really get to know my fellow Red Hatters. And again, the reason that I chose Red Hat is my last job was at ExxonMobil, so it was an energy company, and I really missed the software industry. And I really wanted to go back, even though I was a data scientist working at ExxonMobil. I really liked the ability to work on code, work with different teams, and create a lot of open source. So for me, that was why I went to Red Hat. And my typical day will start around 6:30 or 7 a.m. where I'm walking my dogs, first of all. So on my calendar in the morning, I have marked off walking, where I get to walk the girls, chase rabbits, that sort of thing. I live near a golf course. And then I usually, puppies first, definitely. And then I usually jump into a number of meetings and then try to carve a portion of my day towards the end of the day so that I can work on my own projects. I am a self-professed workaholic, as Christina knows. I always tell her and my other interns, just do as I say and not as I do. So don't work on weekends, don't work evenings, try to have a life balance. And for me, it works. And I don't have a manager who is a micromanager. So I really get to schedule my day around my projects and what's important to me.
Thank you, Audrey. Any other takers for the Red Hat specific questions? Holly?
I can jump in. So we don't have to answer all of them, right?
Absolutely not. Whatever feels like your pace.
Okay, cool. So I can speak to work-life balance on the consulting side. It's pretty flexible. So as a consultant, you're either typically after you've completed like onboarding and everything, you're either assigned to a project or you're on bench time doing like personal enablement, maybe getting skilled up on our like technologies. We offer, you have total access to all of our certifications and all the different workshops and learnings that you can do for our technology. So if you're not on a client, you're typically going to be doing that, maybe getting involved in give back. So giving back of like your time, expertise, skills, whatever it is to other different departments and organizations within Red Hat. And then if you are on a client, then your 9 to 5 kind of looks like doing whatever that work and for that project specifically is for that client. I would say, I mean, I guess Mary can probably weigh in on this from her time as a consultant at Red Hat, but usually you're not doing too much outside of those hours, because then clients do have to pay for that overtime. So they usually don't want you to go too far over that. But you can be kind of flexible with the work that you deliver. It's going to depend on the different clients and like what their working time and working hours are like. And then I would say why Red Hat and my favorite part about Red Hat are kind of the same thing. It has a really unique culture. And I've not worked at 20 different companies like Audrey has, but I've worked at probably 10 different companies at this point. And a lot of them have been startups, and a lot of those companies, particularly startups, always really tout how great their culture is. And Red Hat's probably the first place where I feel like the culture actually matches what folks say about it. Because we are open source, that sort of permeates through everything else that we do as a company. So there's a lot of like open discussions and open conversations about things that could be controversial and things that could not. So decisions that are made for the company are often shared with all of us as members of the company, and we get to weigh in and whatnot. But folks are just like super collaborative, really ready to help. They always want to support you and find out how they can support you. And that just has really been the case with all of the different teams and organizations that I've gotten to work with so far in the last 3 years. So those will be the questions I'll answer.
That's awesome. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, I want to second that. When I was an intern, like 2 weeks in, I was put into this meeting with these really senior engineers, and they were like, Lance, you tell us how to do this. Because you looked into this and you know better than we do. And I was sort of really surprised, but I feel like that's been my experience at Red Hat for the past 4 years. Is people just put you forward. They help you and mentor you. Like, I've been so fortunate to work with some incredible people who really like pulled me with them, which I'm really grateful for. Yeah, I think it really embodies like 100% of yourself is nothing compared to like 1% of the team. And people invest in the team, they invest in you. And yeah, I feel very fortunate with my experience so far. So yeah, just adding to that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Heidi, do you think you could say a little more about Red Hat University, just so folks have some context about what that is?
Oh, sure. So there's a whole bunch of training programs about Linux and about Kubernetes and about automation, Ansible, things like that we use in Red Hat. And because we have this relationship with BU and the collaboratory, you're actually able to take those same courses yourself if you want while you're a student and get certified. When you're an intern, assuming that you come to Red Hat as an intern, you can do all the certifications for free. So that's a little inside tip, that if you want to be certified in something and you have a little extra time that you want to invest in that for your resume or whatever, that's a good chance to do it. Otherwise, you can take the courses for free at BU, and then there's organized tests for the certification every so often, and I'm not exactly sure what the fees are for the certifications, but there are some fees associated with them when you're taking it outside. It's definitely great training, and it's very focused, and it also includes hands-on chance to try things. There's a lab that goes along with the training. So it's definitely a good thing to do, especially if you've never tried Linux or any sort of, open source programming before. It's a good introduction. Gives you a chance to know what you're talking about when you go to interviews and things like that.
That's super helpful. Thank you. Mary?
Yeah. I wanted to jump in on the work-life balance aspect. I think my time at Red Hat definitely kind of not like forced me, but it set the bar really high when I was looking, at other opportunities on, what I wanted the culture at the company to be like. And I just wanted to shout that out, like as you're going through interviews and things. The main thing that drew me to Red Hat was my interview. I found Red Hat at Grace Hopper, so it was like a conference, and when you're at a conference, you're just like switched on and you're giving your pitch to like company after company after company. And I ended up at Red Hat, and I was like, I've never heard of Red Hat, but like, let's give this a go. And I went into my interview not that I wasn't stressed, but I didn't have a lot of pressure on myself because it's not like your typical. It's not like you don't have the stress of like a FANG company. Like you don't have people like talking in your ear about it. At least for me, I hadn't been exposed to it. And the interview, it wasn't like interviewers and then me, like I was being judged. It was a round table conversation, and it really felt like the interview was going both ways. And that was something that I really appreciated. And it was something that, held true while I was working at the company. Like it was super easy to talk to management, even like multiple levels above you. And that transparency was just awesome. So I'd say when you're interviewing, like even as an intern, like remember that you're also interviewing the company you're speaking to, because if something's not a good fit, you're not going to do your best work. You're not going to have a good time. And you're going to be sitting at that computer for a good chunk of your day. So, it's important too.
Definitely. Thank you. So yes, interview the company as well while they're making sure to kind of match the values. Sarah, would you like to say hi?
I would, sorry, my dog is going wild right now. I apologize, but hello everyone. My name is Sarah. Sorry. Oh my God. Actually, I'm going to mute myself. I'll write in the chat. This is terrible.
Sorry, puppies first has been the theme of this meeting. So
okay. It's a tough time.
Right.
This is very embarrassing.
I'd like to just comment on it's a little bit of why Red Hat and a little bit of favorite part of Red Hat. I'm most certainly, I think, the most junior member of like Red Hat here, from like a full associate perspective. And in both of my internships, I was in like the operating system side for a little while, and then I was in the data science side. And in both opportunities, I was only ever treated as an equal member of the team. The people I worked with were unbelievably gracious about including my perspective on decisions that were relevant to me, and helping me develop some more of like the decision-making acumen that was necessary for things that weren't necessarily relevant to me. And that experience was so valuable to me. Always felt like I was supported without being like, I hesitate to say not told, because you obviously have your own objectives, but like you're a part of a vision a lot of the time in a very real way. And with respect to like what we call like our open and inclusive culture, that is exemplified by this pretty dramatic example, which is that like over in the Seaport office on the 4th floor, you can just run into people in the C-suite, like the CEO or the CTO or whoever. And the other day, like I just ended up running into the CEO and our president and passed them in the hallway and just like said, "Hey, sir," to both of them. And they were like very friendly and like, "Hey, good to see you. How's it going?" And I was like, "Oh, cool." So it really shows off that like, even at like through every level, everyone is like treated with respect and dignity, and like everybody's just kind of excited to be there and like doing something together. That's at least how it feels to me. I hope everybody has the same experience with that. That's what I'd like to say about it.
Yeah, and I think I would like to add to that. In the last company where I worked at, ExxonMobil, if you ran into a vice president or something like that in the hallways, You just looked straight ahead and did not acknowledge, like, because you don't want to like freak them out or do something that will piss them off. So it's a big difference. It actually took time for me to distress and get rid of my PTSD and get used to the open and inclusive culture at Red Hat.
Awesome. All right, that's a lot of fantastic things about Red Hat. While we're on this topic, does anyone from BU or any attendees have any more questions that are Red Hat specific or open source specific? You can either unmute or drop something in the chat.
Come on, you all, don't be shy. Ask us questions.
They're so friendly. They just told you about the company culture, open table. All right. Let's move on to the next set of questions. These are more.
I think Tara has a question. Sorry, Maria.
Yeah,
Oh, you're all
there's
good.
has
Thank
their
you.
hand up.
Hi, I had a question. So I'm in the process of submitting my resume for applications to internships, and I'm wondering how you all personally found the balance between making a resume creative and not so creative so that people will think like, oh, do they not know what they're doing? Like, can they not create a very professional resume? So I'm trying to find the balance between that, and I'm wondering if you guys have any suggestions.
Well, tell us a bit more about how creative you are. What are you putting in your resume? Are you putting pictures of dogs in your resume? Because like I would hire you right there for that. Like seriously.
Currently, I'm like staying safe, and it's like a normal basic resume, and I just like inserted a picture of myself like on like the very top side, like a very small picture. But like even that, I don't know how that would be taken, because in the clubs that I'm in, the way that they teach how to do a resume is like, do this and this and this, and if you do anything different, they're not gonna like that, and your resume will get tossed. So yeah, but I've also heard deferring advice from somebody who's a BU professor, and she advised to be like a little bit more creative and like not follow the standard resume template. And so I'm wondering if I should do that or if I should just stick with mine.
I think for me personally, but we have James and Mary. So you guys go ahead and I'll go after you.
Sure, thanks, Audrey. I think it would depend a lot on the kind of company you want to work at. So if you're interested in being in finance, for example, I think a lot of those companies are more strict with how they want you to present yourself. But at least in my experience, and even my experience like interviewing at Red Hat, like my resume when I applied to Red Hat had little emojis on it. For like each experience, I had a relevant emoji. And I made it through. And it definitely helped me as an interviewer to like, it would make the candidate stand out if they added like a little bit of personality, so they know that you're a real person. You're not just, I don't know, copy pasting a template you've seen online. So yeah, I'd say it depends where you're trying to work. But I feel like in tech, it's always better to stand out a little.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to echo that a little bit because I think that's really, really valuable. We're reading resumes right now for a position in our team, and I'll tell you that I haven't thrown any resumes out because they've been too creative. But I would also say that it's really important to be really clear about what you want to inform the recruiter or the interviewer about. So if you have expertise in something that you want to highlight, you need to make sure that that's very well highlighted. Like resumes that are like word blocks are really hard to decipher. And so being careful about what you put on and very like, I guess, funnel-y about it, like important stuff is at the top, maybe less important but more detailed is more at the bottom, is what my eye has tended to gravitate more toward. But I don't think there would be any problem with bringing a reasonable amount of personality and creativity into it, because the individual is the most important part of who you're hiring. It's not just expertise.
Okay, thank you.
Audrey, do you want to go next, or did you?
No, go ahead and get Holly. I'm good.
Okay. So I just wanted to add too, I echo everything everybody else said. We are literally in the week of our college hiring, early career hiring event. So did about 6 interviews today alone, and have looked at a lot of resumes the last couple of days. But one thing that I love to see on a resume is when folks share their interests, or like what they like to do in their free time and hobbies. I love to be able to see, like, what do you do outside of, you know, your school career, or like your past professional experience. Red Hat is, like I mentioned, a very social and open company. And so it can be nice to have something else to sort of like bond over and maybe connect over and chat with the candidate about, and just to give them a little bit more of like a personality beyond just the words that we're seeing on a paper. And then one thing that James said I want to echo as well, he mentioned he's never thrown a resume away because it's been too creative. Same thing. And I've also never thrown one away because maybe it wasn't like a typical desirable resume to see either. You know, most companies, especially if it's a company that like you want to work for and that you identify with, like your values and goals. If you feel like they have the same kind of values, goals, and culture, they're going to take into consideration more than just what's on your paper. And then the last thing I will share, and feel free to get further feedback on this. I've heard mixed reviews about the pictures on the resume because it can potentially inspire some bias from interviewers. Now, I think that's a personal choice of whether or not like you feel strongly that you want that and you want folks to be able to like associate a face and a name. And I've seen people do it despite that feedback, but just something I felt like it might be valuable to share.
Thank you.
I'll add one more thing too, is when I was in school, I don't know if this is still applicable, but I was told that there's a lot of like automated systems that process your resume. And so I always had like a resume for like career fairs and things where I was handing it to an actual person that was going to be reading it. And that was like a little bit different formatted. And I had a little more like liberty with the creativity. Like I also added some emojis and you know, some little icons and whatnot. And then I had like a more standard template for things where I knew they were trying to process it and then submit this like application from the resume, where I didn't want to re-enter everything after I just submitted my resume. That's supposed to be automatically parsed into the format that they want. And then you have to re-enter everything. That was always a pain. So I kind of had to.
Thank you.
You know what? I'll add to this as well. I think it's also a great resource to just use your. I know LinkedIn is becoming huge these days, and I know Handshake is as well. So if you're looking for another creative outlet where you're, I guess, afraid of going a little too creative with your resume, you could always kind of increase the customization level of your LinkedIn and your Handshake and those platforms, because a lot of recruiters do tend to recruit from those platforms specifically. So I think that could be a great place to start with that.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking a question. That was great. Again, any questions in the chat are more than welcome. We've had this next slide up for a while as a spoiler alert. But the next couple of questions are a little more career advice focused. So what kind of career advice would you guys give to someone who's recently graduated or is still a student in college? So maybe internships or kind of intro level jobs. What is something you wish you knew when you were just starting out? Or what is something you learned the hard way, I guess? What advice would you give to someone who wants to work in tech but doesn't know what in tech they want to do? So exploring fields like, I know we have consultants here, project management, software engineering, other fields as well. And lastly, what are your tips for students that don't have any experience looking for their very first internship to get their foot in? I see James has raised his hand. Go ahead.
I think you can go on YouTube and see hundreds of videos that are about people doing leak code and grinding it out, and like, you know, whatever that book is, it's like Cracking the Coding Interview. And I want to be the other side of that coin, which is to tell you that I had an unconventional way in the door, which was that like every step along the way, I was like, I was just getting to know people and like working really hard on projects and working with excellent people. And I think I did one total real interview with Red Hat, and the rest was like getting passed between teams because I was like, oh, I want to work there. And then at Red Hat, I just kind of like ended up there after finding my niche. And so the major piece of advice to give to a current student or recent grad is that like networking along with expertise is critical. And I don't like the word networking as much as like just relationship building. Get to know people and how they do their work and why they do their work, why that work is important. Find your niche by exploring. And then just like treat people like people. Like seriously reach out. In the worst case, you've like learned something. In the best case, you have a stepping stone towards doing something awesome. That would be like the major thing. Like keep being open to learning about people and like finding out what people are doing, and you know, be friendly.
That's great advice. Thank you. Audrey.
So I'll kind of tackle the question about someone wanting to work in tech, but they don't know which area, what should I do? That's actually a really good question. If you can't decide whether you like working within code or working specifically, say, within data engineering or say within ML ops, I would suggest that you just go ahead and pick any one of those, right? You know that you want to work in tech, so just start somewhere. And even if you find out that, say, data engineering isn't your jam, that's okay. At least you can say, you know, I did a stint in data engineering. You know, it's like I learned some skills and I know what data engineering about, but it's not what I want to do for the rest of my career. And that's okay. It's just definitely just pick something and go ahead and work at it and see what it turns out to be like for you.
Mary?
I'd say put my hand down. My biggest piece of advice, this is more so, I mean, I guess it applies like in the classroom, but more so once you're in a role, is to not be afraid to ask questions. And this is something that I can't stress enough, especially now that I've seen the software engineering side of things. Like the best software engineers, I think this applies like for any role. The like, I don't know, best people on a team are the ones that are just not afraid to ask questions and like be the person in the room that is like asking what everyone else is thinking and just like clarifying what they need to do and, you know, bouncing off of other people. It's something that took me a while to get over, and I still have days sometimes where like I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm doing or that I don't belong by asking a question, but like I never regret it when I do. So that's huge, and that's something that I really observed within consulting at Red Hat. The structure on our projects was there would be like more junior consultant, a senior consultant, and we'd have an architect that's like the expert, the technical expert on the project. And all the architects that I worked with that were super talented, smart people would always ask a million questions, and they were the experts like in every call. So I was like, okay, if I want to be like you one day, like I need to be asking all of my questions. So the sooner you can get over the fear, the better.
Thank you, Mary. Heidi, I think was next, and then we'll do Lance after.
Muted.
Sorry, I was going to point out, being from BU, you have a huge leg up compared to everybody else getting into Red Hat. So take advantage of it. Find a faculty person, find another student, find a grad student, and talk to them about a project, and get on that project and contribute to that project. It doesn't matter if it's a Red Hat project or not. You know, if you're interested in software development, work on that. If you're interested in education, work on that. If you're interested in politics, work on that. Like, get hands-on experience with somebody who can be a mentor for you. And if you're interested in software development, we have all these things in the collaboratory, and that's exactly what they're there for, right? Is so that you can work with people at BU and do what James was mentioning about, you know, find a project, work on a project, get handed around from one person to another, and network that way. So take advantage of that. If you're really completely brand new to tech and you're just thinking about it, you know, maybe you were majoring in biology or something, and you're thinking about a different path, hackathons are a great thing to try. They're a minimal commitment. I absolutely 100% hate them because I don't like to stay up all night. But if you can get over that, there's an excellent hackathon called Tech Together, which is at BU. It's specifically intended to support women and people of alternate genders. And they're very welcoming. You don't have to go there being an expert at anything. And they will, you know, involve you in a project and give you experience, no matter what level you go into there. So I would highly recommend that if you just want to kind of get a taste for something and you're okay with, you know, having an intense weekend experience. I'll put the link to it in the chat here, as well as the link to collaboratory projects, so you can look up faculty.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think Tech Together did just happen last weekend, but they have them periodically. So there'll be another one coming up next. Lance?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to second what Maria said, what Mary said, sorry. Yeah, it's interesting how every meeting I feel like I go to, the people who ask the questions are in my mind those who shouldn't need to. But yeah, anyway, I just, yeah, I 100% want to echo that. I also, for me, I found much more success in the interview process and the just application process once I had kind of like asked myself and been able to answer some kind of like, I guess, existential questions about like, I guess, you know, what do I believe in, you know, like what keeps me up at night, what really gets me fired up, like what do I want to have like sleepless nights about, you know, like thinking and working toward, like absolutely pouring my heart and soul into. You know, once I figured out what that is, I mean, you know, it can start with like something vague, like you can just say like, well, okay, I like helping people. And then you can kind of like start narrowing down and figure out, well, okay, like in what setting, in what context. And for me, you know, it kind of led to like, oh, I want to help those that are like less technology savvy, to like better grasp the impact of like giving your data away and the impact that, you know, the data that you provide has on your life, and help them regain control over the data that they submit. And And then it sort of led me into, you know, open source, and like that transparency was really appealing to me, and being able to contribute to something in that way was sort of what led me to Red Hat. And I found more success once I had a much more targeted approach for, like, I had an idea of exactly what I wanted, and I went to those companies that I really wanted to be part of because they aligned with where I wanted to be. And it was less like, let me apply to 300 jobs in a week and just send my, you know, same resume to these same companies with the same sort of tweaks in the CV, and just trying to play the numbers game. And instead, I had like a really targeted approach, and I found much more success with that.
Thank you so much. I just put something in the chat, but Lance has a ton of articles about privacy and all of the research that he does on Medium, and anyone can make an account and post anything on Medium. So this is a great resource to kind of show off your work, spice up your resume a little. Lance actually got me to post an article back when I was working on his team on the collaboratory. And I think when I was interviewing with Heidi, that was what stood out the most to her. So definitely a great tool if you guys are looking to add more things to your resume. Audrey?
Yeah, I'll just add one quick thing for the resume. I actually had an intern that applied for a position that had no relevant IT experience, and I still hired him. He was a swimming instructor. He had done a lot of work with the community. And what he listed besides those things were some of the projects that he worked on when he was in school. So that showed me somebody that was interested in IT, somebody that actually had some work experience, not tech, but at least he held a job. But I think what was really nice is he also showed how involved he was in the greater community. And at Red Hat, we love people that want to work with the community because, of course, we're an open source company. And like, don't be afraid to like list, you know, some of the courses that you took if they were like really tough. It was like, you know, extreme programming with Python for like neural networks or something like that. Just list that down. I mean, that's experience. When you're going to school, you're getting experience. So if you don't have like real job experience, list that.
Definitely. Thank you. Any other takers or questions? I know we're getting close to 8 p.m. and I know a bunch of folks have to drop off. So.
I think one piece of advice I can offer is like, while you're developing your technical skills, also like work on your soft skills. I think everyone here can vouch that like at Red Hat, we mostly communicate through like Google Chat and Slack. So definitely make sure that you can be super clear and concise, so that when you do ask for help, you can get the help you need.
That's a great tip. Yep, Tara.
I'm wondering if anybody has any advice for so I started as a psychology major, and then a year later I added computer science as a major, so now I'm double majoring. And as a junior, right now I currently have the technical skills of a sophomore, and I'm not sure if that will reflect well in like the interview applications and in the interviews themselves. And I'm wondering how to make myself stand out, or if they take that into consideration in the interview, especially if I don't have as much LeetCode experience. Yeah, so I'm just wondering if you have like any advice.
One thing I'll say with that is, I think if you're a person that has a background that spans more than just traditional CS. I think that's definitely an advantage. A lot of companies will see, especially something like psychology. It's like, oh, okay, like you have the technical skills, but you can also work with people, which is like half of the job, really. So that's definitely a great thing. And something else, at least in my experience, every like internship or job I've had, the things I've needed to do at the job have never been things that I knew how to do previously. So if you're trying to go the like software engineering route, especially, and this applied in consulting as well, just saying that you really like to learn, you know, you want to be exposed to new things, you know how to Google, like those are the real skills I think interviewers look for, because like, you know, you can say you know Python, but it's like, do you know how to solve this obscure bug that you encounter? Do you know how to talk to other engineers about it? I think that's more important, and that's something that like interviewers try to gauge in interviews as well, because like so many people will check the box of like, you know, the basics, but it's like, can you, like, what can you do with those basics? So I'd say don't be discouraged. I think you're on the right track.
Thank you.
I think that any person who is hiring someone who's a sophomore or a junior will, into an internship, will be very well aware of the background of that individual and will not be holding their like holding that against them, so to say. Like, because you're at that point in your education, you can't be any further ahead any faster, you know? But I would say that like by the point you're at, you're ready to do a lot of valuable stuff at a lot of places. At like, with that background, you know, you would be a valuable member of the team, and I wouldn't like self-select yourself out of the pool of applicants because you've only gone through, you know, this is just guessing from that like sophomore level, but like, you know, data structures and algorithms and you know, maybe some low level programming and some Python programming. The number of like jobs out there for people that are at that expertise level, it has to be, you know, countless. So much needs to be done that's at that like point, that I think that the major thing is exactly, I believe, as Mary said, it's like, it's about the person. Like, they're not going to count you out because of your lack of expertise, and they want to hire someone that's good to work with. And this a little bit answers the question of what are the tips for students with no experience. That's an important piece of context. And also, I kept trying to write this as a message, but you can get involved with open source stuff. Like, I mean, it's free and anyone can do it. And contributions don't only ever have to be technical. They can be documentation based. They can be graphic design. They can be communication. If you hate like some piece of documentation in a Python module that you use, like submit a pull request. And if you do that enough times, you're a contributor. And like, then you can point at that to a recruiter and say, this is what I've been doing. Like, I care, I want to be in this. And that shows a lot of yourself. So I wouldn't be stressed. They know who you are. Show them more of who you are as a person, and just kill it.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Very inspiring. Thank you, James. Just because it is past 8, I think we're going to stop with the Q&A here. If anyone has any questions past this point, you guys can feel free to send them to our Girls Who Code email. I'll put it in the resources, and all of the slides are getting sent out to you guys as well, with some contact information, if I can get to it. So there's a resources slide. I'll add some more resources that have been posted in the chat in there as well. And our lovely Red Hatters have provided their contact information for all of you guys to, bother them with as many questions as you want if they're willing to respond, which is amazing. Of course, use LinkedIn to your advantage, add them on there, make connections, meet people. And yeah, if anyone has any closing remarks, we'll take those now. But I just want to one last time thank all of our panelists for being so amazing and giving us their time. This was honestly went much better than I expected. Actually, no, I knew this was gonna go great because of you guys, but thank you so much again. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Chris.
And you
Yeah,
guys
thanks
are
for
recording
organizing.
if you want it.
Thank you,
for
Maria. It was
moderating.
great having a chance to meet you guys and hear more.
Yeah, thanks so much for
Bye-bye.
moderating, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance.
Thanks a lot, Maria.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye.